Welcome back to the Real Estate Huddle. This is episode 9, and we are looking into new construction, new homes, brand new everything. So this is I guess in the past few months, it's been really, really good opportunity to buy brand new build homes, just because it's just been a rough market for everybody. So they're trying to build and trying to get rid of them and incentivizing and have amazing like rate buy downs and all this kind of stuff. And we're starting to see that window close a little bit. Overall though, what have your guys' experience been like with new builds? Who do you like using?
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot. I've been looking at some with two buyers. Some of those rate buy downs they've done, that they do bring some leverage, so that they can negotiate $100 million line of credit across this entire development and bring it down essentially like a 2-1 buy down. So there is some leverage to be had. I have not. I think part of the stories that might be interesting is what is additional leverage do we have in terms of the options that we can get and concessions. What's the
So, and it depends on the market. So when I first started, the market was a lot different than it is now. And then when we got into like the COVID market, there was like no negotiation. It was like you bought the home for what they valued it at, and that was it. Not a ton of incentives, because inventory was moving, resale inventory was moving. They were building like crazy, and everybody was trying to get into a house. But when you compare it to the market that we're in now, where it slowed down, our volume of sales was down by quite a bit last year. These builders were very eager to get their homes off the market. So, for example, we just closed one in December, but we had to sell our client's house first, and that took forever. We actually had we had to renegotiate our closing date with the new build because we had lapsed that on our contingency. So we put in an offer with them, not an offer, we just signed a contingent deal saying we'll sell the house and we'll buy yours. So unfortunately, we couldn't sell that house in the time frame that we wanted, but because the market was so slow,
they really worked.
They're like, no, we'll push the date out. Like we want them to have this house. We want to make this work. And so the cool thing is we had to lower the price on the seller side. So the seller's home, and they didn't want to do that. Like they needed every penny they could to put into this new build. So we went back to the new build, the sales rep, and said, hey, look, it's a crummy market. Our sellers are feeling it. We just had to price drop a little bit. And we wanted to know if you could help us out and kind of make some of that up by dropping the price on this house. And we got them an additional $15,000 knocked off of the home price of a new build. And then on top of that, they had, I think in total, they had like $24,000 in concessions. They had most of their closing costs paid for, and then they had a huge rate buy down, like huge. I think they got into the 5s when we were at 7s, I think, close to 7s or low 7s at least. So that was D.R. Horton too. I'll name them. D.R. Horton was amazing to work with. I thought they were fantastic. They did really well with my buyers. I've never had a bad experience with D.R. Horton. And the cool thing is these new builds, it's a brand new home. No one's ever lived in it. It's yours. Typically on some of these builders, they're semi-custom, so you can kind of pick your packages of paint, counters, flooring, all that kind of stuff, make it a little bit more custom to what you want. And the salespeople there, they obviously have to do their job, but in most cases, they do want to work with you and get things under contract, so they're pretty reasonable. But at least that's been my experience.
Yeah, I think there are some pros and cons to new builds. Pros, like you said, everything's brand new, semi-custom. I think the downsides of it is how long it takes. A lot of my experience, a lot of the deals I've done have actually happen to be dirt starts.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a 12-month turnaround time in some cases, sometimes a little bit sooner, other times longer. It just depends. You never know what you're going to get. So the move-in dates, that's a downside. You never, even though the marketing team advertises something, I've never had one close when they said they were going to close. And so I think that's the downside. It's all a guessing game. You know, if you have a 12-month lease, all month to month, you have to expect that. And then I think the other downside, which a lot of people don't talk about, is you don't know what rate you're going to get. Where with a resale home, you have a little bit better of an idea of what you're going to get because you're actively looking at houses right then and there, and you're most likely going to get a resale home pretty quick, where you have no idea where the rates are going to sit 12 months from now. Mm-hmm. And when the builder is ready to close, you have no choice. You have no ability to say, no, the rates are too high right now. Can we wait for them to come down? No, That's gone. You have to close and you have to suck it up and deal with it. I think that is something, you know, we've had to learn the hard way.
Conversations I've had are much more the soft and fuzzy stuff. Neighborhoods are not established. You don't know anything about the schools. What are the amenities? You know, they may or may not build that rec center kind of thing. There's no trees. You know, those are the things that tend to happen in my conversations. I do have a buyer that's really, I think that's what he's going to buy, and he's aware of those things. But you know, that's a lot of non-monetary, non-process. It's this, do you want to be the first house in the neighborhood, or do you want to know it's established?
Yeah. Or if they have a plumbing issue or a sewer issue, you know, you're going to find that out 5 years down the road with everybody else. So it's kind of a risk that you're, you know, willing to take or not willing to take, depending. I mean, I feel like now they're building houses better, but I think in, you know, the COVID time when builders were going crazy and trying to build things quickly and get things done, maybe things were missed. Unknown at this point.
We can't say that out loud, but that's the concern, right?
Yeah.
When you're racing to finish 9 homes this month, are you taking the same care as when you're trying to finish 2?
I had a crazy story or situation with Richmond. I'll name them too. I don't really care. Where we got to a walkthrough with our inspector. We got our own because we wanted a professional there to catch certain things to make sure everything was up to code. But then there was also me, and we had I think he was the builder, general contractor, I don't know.
The supervisor,
superintendent. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's who it was. And we did the walkthrough, and I noticed there was just a dip in the floor, like a crazy dip, very, very noticeable. And then when I started looking, it looked like the whole kitchen was just slanted. It was wonky. And I told them, I was like, look, this needs to be fixed. This is not a cosmetic thing, because builders push back on that. And I said, when they go to sell, I will get questioned on what is going on with the floor. And you will scare off a lot of buyers who think it's a structural issue. So surely enough, they immediately were like, nope, we're not doing it. That's cosmetic. And I kept pushing and pointing out the facts that I see it all the time. And the superintendent just lost it on me, said, if you go to closing, I won't be there. Or if you go to the next inspection, I'm not going to come. Crazy he very unreasonable. And so I let him get it out, and then I went to the Richmond, the sales associate, and I said, look, this is the experience we just had. My buyer left that inspection in tears because of his attitude. He was basically yelling at us. And I go, and not only that, but the product is not a good product. And it's a $900,000 home. And so they got everyone involved. I mean, they got all the higher-ups involved. They called me personally to apologize, called the client to apologize. We had a whole conversation with everyone. And then not only that, but they fixed it the next day. They had people there. They sent pictures. We went back. It was like it never had happened. So that was yes, I'm thankful that they realized that their approach was not the best one, and they wanted to make sure that their reputation, stayed, clean, and it did. So I did appreciate that. So it started off as a bad experience, but it ended up being rectified.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there are pros and cons to new builds, and like the time frame is tough. I mean, you're dealing with a brand new home, so like your inspection standard is a little bit higher than what it would be on a resale. So you're kind of expecting, and I know your buyers are going to be expecting to, like, everything needs to be perfect. And then there's multiple walkthroughs that you're doing. You have like framing, drywall, final, or like you have like the pre-final and like final walkthrough. Like all of these, luckily the pro about these is like you get to go through it like multiple times, and you get, your eyes on it multiple times through each stage, and they'll tell you about it. You can see and have them fix the problems for you. And then like even to the point where like the house is finished, but you go through that pre-final walkthrough and you're like putting blue tape everywhere, which is, that's a project and a half. But ultimately, like the goal of it is it's a brand new home. It's going to appreciate. It's a really good asset to have. It takes a little bit of patience. So those new builds, especially when dealing with superintendents that are a little bit more harder to work with.
Yeah.
So,
and I've worked with Richmond again since then and had a great experience. I think, everyone's human and you have bad days sometimes. I've had them. So, but in the end, my client was protected with the issue being resolved. And I also had an experience with someone on our team where we both had buyers under contract with a different builder. Well, sorry, with the same builder, but not Richmond, another one. And we were working with two different sales associates, two completely different.
This is the one right over by Verona.
Yeah, in Verona, exactly. And I had a great experience. Everything happened when it should. Great follow-up. Even from the very beginning when my buyer, signed the contract, they took maybe 2 or 3 hours out of their time to go through every single thing in their contract with the buyer, because it's not a state-approved contract. Technically, I can't. They're the ones that wrote it. They need to explain everything in it. So they did that, and it was a complete different experience than Port Jackson, where deadlines kept being missed, things were being, not addressed after inspections, late closing after me, even though we signed at the same time. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it really you never know what you're gonna get, and even though I've worked with builders multiple times, I feel like it's a different experience every time.
It's kind of a subtle difference, but you're working with a buyer now that it's not. Are they doing a custom build versus buying in? Or are they buying into an existing development?
Yeah, semi-custom, like Spencer put. Yeah, I have not had full custom homes yet. There has been a client once that was interested in exploring that, and so I set them up with builders that could get them there, and they talked about plans and. But then I don't know why they just decided, we don't want to go through the hassle of having to pick every single thing out and start from the ground up. And they decided to just go with a resale home and customize it and change it the way that they wanted to.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing a lot of people do. But, the crazy thing is we're still building. Like our inventory is still technically low, and it's actually getting lower. As we get closer to this next 2024 spring season. And so new builds, they're still around. They're still going to be around. We have some fantastic builders in Colorado, and we have some fantastic new neighborhoods coming up. One thing I wanted to mention real quick, as far as one of the pros of buying a new build, is when that home is finished and you're closed, you have a warranty that extends to, in most cases, 10 years. 10 years on the structural side. You have some are 2 to 5 years for like your systems, and then you have like a 1 or 2 year cosmetic warranty for like paint and drywall cracks and whatever it is. So that's awesome. It's something you literally don't have to worry about. you call the warranty company and they send out contractors and get all that fixed for
That's
you.
That's a really good point. I've had, again, 2 scenarios because ultimately it's up to the buyer, but I've had one buyer who said, I know I have that warranty that lasts, a year after closing. I'll just do an inspection right before that's up for them to look at everything again.
Yep.
And then that's what I'll bring to them to fix.
Yep.
And then I had another buyer, just comfort levels are different, where they wanted an inspector there every step of the way. So, before the pre-drywall, or before the drywall, we did the pre-drywall meeting. After the drywall went up, once the electric was put in, we did another one there. We had the HVAC guy go out and check that. So, and that was great too. And they're planning on doing an inspection right before their warranty's up to just check everything one more time.
Yeah.
So you
good
have those
different
options.
perspectives.
Yeah, you have both those options, and there's not a wrong way or a right way. It's just what your comfort is.
So, Kristin or Chad, if you guys were to buy, or like if you're in the market to buy a new build, what questions would you have? I mean, I know you haven't bought a new build before, but what questions would you have if I were your agent or Kim were your agent? What would your questions be? What would you be expecting going into a new build as a new buyer?
Yeah, I think I would have a lot of questions about the community. If I'm buying, I'm just going to make this up, a $600,000 house, what does the neighborhood look like? Because I know some of the new builds I've looked into, they're building $600,000 houses, and right down the road, their next neighborhood plan is $900,000 houses, right? Mm-hmm. So, to me, I feel like that would make me feel more secure because they're building this big, they have a whole idea of how this is going to look, which makes me think they put a lot of thought into it. So they're probably going to take their time doing a good job. Also, if my neighbor down the road is buying a $900,000 house right now, then that means that values are probably going to increase, over time. Yeah. Which I would love to hear also,
Yeah.
So yeah, it just makes me think of Lyric. So Lyric is a new build community over by like Sky Ridge, Park Meadows kind of area.
Ridgegate area.
And they're building a lot of variety of houses, a huge community over there, which is awesome. And I've researched that community a lot, and they seem to have a lot of rec centers and a lot going on. So I think that's great. So yeah, just questions and value of do they go up just as fast as an older home, or as
far as like resale, or I mean, as far as appreciation?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How do they compare as far as appreciation goes?
Yeah, I can't really ask that question without being my real estate agent self, but you're competing with the builder to maximize the return on that property and that build, which is inherently discomforting for me, the potential buyer. Maybe I'm more discerning than some others. But if they're building in Lone Tree where you have that, like we have, you sold a house in Indian Paintbrush in Westridge. Right behind that is where they're going to build 47.
Yep.
Started at
it was an open lot, and now Richmond's taken over. I think
now
it's
they're going to be $1 million homes in there. Yes, you get the infrastructure, you get all the schools, et cetera. That's very different than buying, we looked at properties up in Commerce City, which it's
a little different.
There's no schools, there's nothing there. There's a lot of great plans. But that finding that line between I'm buying in at a great deal and it's going to be worth more when they build the infrastructure versus they're trying to extract the maximum value in advance of the work.
Yeah, no, the neighborhood is everything, quite honest. I mean, that's like Commerce City, for example. They've got new build homes out there and they're beautiful, but it's in Commerce City, and that's not to say anything negative about Commerce City, but when you're comparing it to like southeast and southwest Denver,
felt like it was in a wind tunnel.
It's a little bit different. Yeah, it's just the amenities aren't there like they are with some of these other communities. For me, some of my favorite communities, this is actually kind of what I wanted to ask you guys too, as far as your favorite communities go that are newer. Let's start with Castle Rock. We'll kind of go we'll stick with South Denver, but Castle Rock, we'll just kind of plug some of our favorite communities. Me personally, I think Crystal Valley Ranch is probably one of my favorite communities.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Like in general, just with the things that they have, the builders that are there. They planned it really well. It's a really pretty area. It's kind of tucked away. They've got some really local builders. They've got some really, bigger, well-known builders out there. And it's very diverse in the house and the people there, and in just kind of what they provide as far as their amenities go. So that one's one of my personal favorites. I don't know if you guys know a ton about the Castle Rock communities, but there's a couple out there that are still building. Crystal Valley Ranch, I think they're planning to close up in April. So if you're looking to get out there, brand new build, now's the time to get out there.
I also like Verona. That's Highlands Ranch, Littleton area. The reason why I like it is it's a great location to just, if you're commuting from Denver, which is awesome. It's a 15, maybe with traffic, 20-minute drive. It's easy access to the highway. Yeah, easy access.
There's been a lot of talk about the RTD extending up, like right on the other side of 470 there.
Yeah, I think they're making that plan.
Yeah,
I think so.
And the product, like the design that they have, is really great. They're mainly townhouses. They have a couple other layouts as well, but mainly townhouses, and it's a really great starter community. A starter home community, I would say.
A little ironic. My mother-in-law moved out of there to where it used to be 55 plus before all that new build went in.
Yeah, and it's also great for investors too. I wanted to mention this. My investors asked about it too because of traveling nurses. It's so close to the hospitals.
Yeah.
So
it's
a lot
really
of investors were interested in that too.
Really good spot. Yeah. What about you, Kristin? What are your favorite? Do you have a favorite community that you're looking at right now? You mentioned Lyric.
Right. Yeah. Lyric is kind of the main one I was looking at. I mean,
it's a cool plan.
And it's cool to see, where that's going to go. And that's already such a great area. Yeah. And kind of going back to the question, another question I would have is just, I mean, I know that it's a risk of what's going to happen in 5 years and how the structure is going to be. I mean, how would you answer that question if a buyer would ask you that?
Like what the amenities are?
No, just like structurally. If I'm going to buy a new build, I think there's pros and cons, right? Everything is brand new, which is great. So the likeliness of something going wrong is slim. And I guess, you talked about warranty too. So is that more on the builder's end, that then if something did go wrong for some reason, they would just contact the builder?
They do have a warranty that covers structural issues. It's up, each warranty is a little different. Yeah, I've seen 7 before to cover that. And I've seen it with certain homes where it's like $60,000, maybe $80,000 to get it fixed. So that warranty is so
valuable.
I think they can make that much less of a concern for you, the buyer, on a new build than you can elsewhere.
Right, yeah. So you have those things that you can always fall back on. But if you're worried, you can do what my buyer did, which is just get an inspector every step of the way.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah,
those inspections aren't super expensive in the grand scheme. So, but yeah, no, I think, addressing those questions, typically you contact like the warranty or the builder, and they get out, assess it, and then they'll make the necessary adjustments to fix that. So it is nice. After that warranty's up, 10 years, 10 years is a long time. What people need to understand about Colorado though, is that we just have hot soils. I was told by an inspector.
Would you say hot soils?
Hot soils, yeah. So bentonite is a big one. It's just really expansive. It contracts. It's just very, very responsive to moisture. So when you get that, like in places like Highlands Ranch, West Littleton, it's even up in Parker and stuff. It's just, you get a lot of cracked concrete. And I had an inspector tell me one time, he's like, Colorado concrete is cracked. That's just how it is. It's always going to be cracked. It's always going to be there. And so people do have that question a lot. So if you're a new buyer looking at a new build, just understand those warranties are there for a reason. If it does happen, you can get it fixed with that warranty within that 10-year. But it's not like settling is, I shouldn't say it's a natural thing, but you'll see it a lot in homes through Colorado. It's just kind of what happens. But
yeah. Another thing, I don't get this question a lot, but I like to disclose it whenever buyers are interested in new builds is you're paying more for property taxes because you're paying for all the infrastructure, the roads, all of that. So you will see that be a little bit more expensive than a resale.
And your property taxes, it's funny because your property taxes are interesting on a new build. They'll start like really low, but then the next year it's just like poof, they spike. And then I see a lot of...
We talked about it at the meeting just last week.
Yeah.
What mill levy they're using before or after the improvement, which is the building.
Yeah, and so sometimes you'll see a huge spike in your mortgage. So it's something for us agents and all of those realtors out there that maybe haven't worked with them as much yet on the new build side to understand that. I mean, they're basing their property taxes on dirt at that point, and then once you put a house on it, it shoots up on the next assessment. And
if you're not proactive about that with your buyer,
that's a heavy thing to get hit with.
Yeah.
So, what other communities are you guys like? So we talked about Lyric. Any other communities that you like, Kristin?
That was the main one I was looking at. There's one in Castle Pines, but I'm not familiar with what it's called, right on I-25.
Sterling Ranch is really more Littleton.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I was going to mention Sterling Ranch.
I don't want to throw shade on anyone, but I've talked to a lot of people at open houses who are looking to get back to Highlands Ranch from Sterling.
They have, unfortunately, they have had some, when we're talking about property taxes, they have some high property taxes over there. Great homes, like really pretty, really nice area, but and it's continuing to develop.
They're starting to get some retail down there. Otherwise, it was just this sea of beautiful homes with
nothing to offer
not
out there.
That much in terms of schools and retail.
I was going to say, I personally like Sterling Ranch community, but the feedback the homes are beautiful. You know, when you walk through it, you see that they're quality products.
Yeah.
But some of the feedback I've gotten is the same thing. Like, what are they going to build out here? It's a little far. It's a little further away from grocery stores.
It's a specific buyer.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Crystal Valley Ranch in the sense that it's a little farther out, not too far, but it's kind of tucked away.
Yeah.
And some people like it, some people don't. But yeah, it's just one of those. It's a beautiful community. I do like it, and I think they've got a good plan out there, I think, for what's to come. It's not there yet, but like you said, they're starting to get some retail out there.
Yep.
Yeah, they're getting there.
Opened a Living the Dream brewery.
See, there you go. That's all you need down there, right?
They're planning to put like a shopping center, all of that stuff.
I've got to assume it's there.
Well, with me being from Parker, I've got to plug something from Parker, even though Looking Glass, I think, is technically Lyric, is technically. But then you have, so if you go down, it's called Motzenbacher Road. If you go down Motzenbacher, you've got Looking Glass on the west side. Then going down, you've got the trails at Crowfoot on the east side, and then you've got Pradera on the east side. Pradera. You want to talk about a beautiful neighborhood, ranging from like 800,000 all the way up to multi-million-dollar homes. Pradera's been in production for a long time. They've been around for a long time, and I think they've still got plots out there that they're building on, but. Really pretty community, and that Motzenbacher takes you basically all the way to Castle Rock, and they've got a ton of new build communities going on each side of that road, and really, really, really good builders, and they're close enough to amenities or resources and grocery stores and retail and all that stuff, but then within the communities themselves, barring one of them, I won't mention it because it is what it is, but. Most of these have like really good parks, dog parks, like clubs, or clubhouses and pools and things like that. And they make it what it comes down to is that they make it really easy to live there.
And there's the golf course. Pradera is 5 minutes from the golf course. So I'm actually considering farming in Pradera.
Pradera's it's a nice community. Out by myself, I want to buy a house in this community. It's new. It's called Vivant, or however you want to pronounce that, Vivant. But they've got Cardell and Joyce homes out there, so they're a little bit more custom, semi-custom. They're on like 5 acres. They're like really, really pretty homes.
Agreed.
Just beautiful homes. So
I'm thinking out loud to any of my friends who are watching this podcast and hearing me not talk so positively about new builds. I hope you see that we got a couple who still come to me and then I'll put you in touch with them.
Yeah. I've got to say, like, if you have the money to do it and you have the time, like the time is really big. If you can get in now, there are builders that have built the home. They just haven't gotten rid of it yet. So it's like move in ready. There's still some of those out there. So you can take advantage of those and beat that long time frame. But if you can't and you have the time to do it, I would highly recommend looking into new builds. And for you agents out there, I would look into new builds right now because what's there now may not be there in the next couple months, if you know what I'm talking about. So now it's not all about that. We want to make sure our clients are happy, but we have to make a paycheck as well. So I know a couple that are still at 3%. They're still offering a 3% compensation.
Yeah, the disparity is great. 3% down to 1%.
Yeah, it fluctuates like crazy. So and shout out to the builders. I guess not a shout out, but hey, just a recommendation. Let's treat our realtors kindly so we can bring you some really good clients. So other than that, anything else, you guys?
No, I learned a lot there.
All right. Well, if you guys have questions, let us know. But otherwise, we'll catch you on the next one, and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching number 9.
So if you have enjoyed what you're listening to and you'd like to hear more, make sure to press that subscribe button so that you can not miss out on any more episodes that are coming up. And also check out all of our contact information is below. You can see us at the dreamsmithteam.com to look up more information about our team and our history and all of the members of our team and see contact information that you can reach us if you have any real estate needs.
See you next time.